Thank you for tuning into our podcast, Nowadays, What Life is Like in the Industrial Connecticut River Valley of Massachusetts. I am your host, Carrie, and joining us today is Holyoke's very own local historian and creator of the historical tours of Greater Holyoke, Robert Como. He personally offers and leads public and private tours, as well as presentations of historical sites throughout communities in the state of Massachusetts. Currently, the communities he has chosen to focus on this year are Holyoke, Chicopee, South Hadley, and Easthampton, and also Granby and Amherst as well. His tour spotlight the local canals, reservoirs, cemeteries, and churches, as well as selected parks, streets, and selected historical houses within each community. In today's episode, we'll be talking about the Providence Methodist Church, located in Easthampton, Massachusetts. So, tell us of the history of this church.
The history of the church is very interesting. It's a very nice looking building and well taken care of, but it has a nice history. And what you're looking at is a building from 1893. But that is not the start of the Providence Methodist Church. There used to be a prior church at the same location, okay, and that was taken down. So the prior church was from 1866, about 3 decades before that second one came in. And so what you're looking at is not the absolute original. And there also used to be a parsonage nearby, and that was at 11 High Street in Easthampton. Okay, whereas this is 51 Main Street. So what you're seeing here is not the first, and that is true in a lot of cases, because they often outgrow their church. Now, today we're going to be talking about several features, including what's there now. We're also talking about the architectural style, and what was formerly in this particular location along the way, which was very interesting. This church does now have a chapel towards its back right.
So, what is the architectural style of this church?
It's in the high Victorian Gothic style, and you can tell that the high Victorian was when they started using enormously high doors and windows, and with a pointed arch, of course. And they're very easy to see as you walk from the front towards the back, and also look into the steeple area. Everything is very high, narrow, right? Especially in the elevated locations of the steeple, you can see up there the very narrow opens into the belfry, all in the pointed high Gothic. And that's also true if you look on the chapel in the back. Also has very narrow windows and pointed in high Gothic look, so it kept that look when it was put in towards the back. So this is a very nice looking church, and it deserves to be right in the middle of town because it's so beautiful.
And really quick, before we continue with the rest of our interview, just to fill our listeners in, if you want to sign up for any of his various tours or find out more information, you can check out his website at holyokecanaltour.org. And there you can find videos and podcasts of the stops along each of his tours, as well as photos and text of the historical sites throughout as well. And for other inquiries or to book a private tour, you can email him directly at bobcat4214B@yahoo.com. And his tours make for fun, educational, outdoor activities for families and group parties. So getting back to our interview, what was formerly in the church's location?
Okay, so in this location beforehand, there was other things. And this is the third object being put in. What was here was, right beforehand, the original church was put in. That church had been meeting in people's house from 1862, but in 1866, they wanted to come into this location. But that church, the original Providence Methodist Church, also displays something. All right, so the modern church is third, the original church is second object at this location. But first of all, since 1787, there was the old Center Cemetery at this location. And so thus, you had a cemetery here, and it was moved in 1865. Well, if you remember, I told you that original church coming in came in 1866. So the church had asked the town if they could move all the burials and their stones to another cemetery. And they were moved off to the Main Street Cemetery, towards the back of that cemetery, to the front, right, and left of a building or structure in the back of that cemetery. They're very easy to find that cemetery. I would guess the amount of barrels moved were between 40 to 60 barrels were moved. Okay, and they were moved in the year 1865. Right after they were moved, the church started being built, and it was ready by 1866. But you don't see that church anymore. You see another church here. The same name, Providence Methodist Church, but it's the second edition of the church and the third object at this same location. So what a changeover it's had through the years. Now, when they added in the chapel onto this main church, they found out that they had missed some of the burials. So remember, the chapel's in the back right. When they dug the basement for that chapel, they dug up bodies, and they had to be moved also to the Main Street Cemetery. So they missed some. And that's very typical, because in these old cemeteries, only about half the burials would have a gravestone associated with it. The others would not. And very typically, towards the back right of any old cemetery, it's going to be the potter's field where the paupers are buried. And they wouldn't have stones in the vast majority of the cases. So they found a potter's field.
And so what is now in the location?
In this location here, very easy to see because you can walk right up to it. And there is now a daycare center at that location, Young World Daycare. And so you could say it's gone full circle. It's gone from a cemetery to a church, to a newer church in the Gothic style, and to a daycare. So it's gone from very old to very new people being associated with this location. And it's still being kept up in a great appearance, most likely because it's right in the center of town, near the town green, near the old town hall. And they try to keep up appearances. Easthampton does have a Community Preservation Act, and this church hopefully can get grants to keep up the appearance, make the look of it worthy of its location. And I'm sure most Easthampton residents would appreciate that. So I hope you see the irony of it going from death location of very old to church for the young, and then for the new kids on the block, it's now a daycare center.
And thank you, Robert, for educating us on your tours and historical topics of your expertise. And we want to thank our listeners for tuning in. And you can check out a large selection of other podcasts on his website, as well as on SoundCloud.com. And be sure to stay up to date with new podcasts and videos posted daily. And thank you for joining us.